Hey everybody, today's video is a subscriber requested video, and all there is to it is really I'm going to be going over what I believe is a good action bar setup for using magic on a Slayer task, and I'll also cover a little bit for what I think you should do if you're using magic for bossing or something like that, as it's all really interchangeable and you have a little bit of variance between your setups if you're going on one Slayer task compared to another, or one boss compared to another. So you just have to keep that in mind, and you have to know a little bit about what you're going to be doing so that you can change around your action bar to get like what you want with it. So over here I have basically the abilities that I use. There are some more magic abilities, but I don't really think that they're worth it. I have 2 thresholds and 1 ultimate with 4 basics. The other basics to me just aren't really worth it. You have chain, which kind of just it hits your targets around you for 100% weapon damage, and then like chains them together. But it's really not that useful from what I found. And if you're on a Slayer assignment, basically all you're gonna end up doing is getting a lot more of the monsters to attack you than what you really need to do. And then also there's Surge, which if you're on a Slayer assignment, you're usually in one area, and you don't have to move around very quickly, so it's not very useful. However, Surge, if you're doing something like Next, that could be useful if you're in the wrong spot at the wrong time and just need to get away. It can be used in that situation. And then one thing is that Dragon Breath, if you're using Dragon Breath on any monsters that range or mage you do have to make sure that you're close enough for the ability to hit, as it does have a distance to the target requirement for it to be able to be used. And then pretty much like these abilities I think are like they're the main magic abilities, and I think they're the best. The Combust is a damage over time, so if this is recharged, you're gonna want to lead off with this attack and then let it start recharging. It has a 15-second recharge time, and then pretty much use these 2 basic abilities. This ability is what you're going to be using the most, and this has a 15-second just like Combust, and that however just kind of hits a little bit harder, and it also stuns your target. And then the reason that I don't really like Tsunami or Detonate or Omni Power, I don't have those on there, and that's because I really don't think that they're that useful. Tsunami, I never really seemed to hit very high with it. I did try using it, and then Detonate just really does not seem useful. It could be useful on certain bosses, however I think you're going to get a lot higher DPS if you're just using like your regular abilities and keep attacking it instead of sitting there and waiting for that to charge up. And then Omni Power I just haven't found very useful, because Metamorphosis, basically what it does is it increases all of your attacks by 50% for 20 seconds, because like there are different ultimates that'll pretty much just, you'll use that ultimate, or while you're using that ultimate you're not able to use any other abilities, but with Metamorphosis it just transforms you into the elemental like from the last spell that you used, and then you can use all of your abilities and your spells. It just increases the damage, and I found that that'll help you out on Slayer assignments and even on bosses. And so now we have the shield abilities, and if you're on like a Slayer task, because you can see that I do have some like spots open on my action bar still, if you're going to be using a shield, which I do recommend sometimes because monsters can hit you pretty hard, and also the shields, you usually use a shield with a wand, and wands from what I've seen so far tend to be a like very good option. The Grapholic wand is fairly cheap and has some pretty good stats to it. So even if you're not using a shield though, you still have 3 abilities, which are Anticipation, Freedom, and Provoke. Provoke really isn't very important if you're going to be doing Slayer, and neither is Freedom, unless they end up adding monsters that'll bind you a lot in like future Slayer updates. But as of right now, Freedom just isn't that important. However, Anticipation, if you're fighting higher level monsters, you don't need a shield to use this ability. But what it'll do is it has a 24-second recharge time, and it'll last for 10 seconds, and it'll just reduce damage by 10%. So if you were hit for 100, you'd only be hit for a 90, so on and so forth. It's really fairly simple, and it's actually a really good ability. Plus, it boosts up your adrenaline so that you can get to your thresholds and your ultimates even faster. And then there's also Regenerate. However, I found that it's a lot easier to just take Shark with you. Take maybe 4 to 8 Shark, depending on your Slayer task. And usually between your prayers, if you have Soul Split, between Soul Split and then just the fact that most Slayer monsters really, they die before they can hit massive amounts of damage on you. So you can pretty much just tear through a task before you really start to take a lot of damage. So if you have some pretty decent gear, I found that Regenerate, since you have to wait for your combat to end and you get out of the combat stance and everything along that line, just to be able to use the Regenerate, it takes a little bit too long and it'll end up making tasks take a lot longer. So using a food is like a much better option. Plus, food's pretty cheap right now. I mean, Sharks heal a good amount of life points, and they're actually at a very cheap price. So we do have these remaining abilities left, and there are these remaining spots left on our action bar, and we've looked over the different abilities that we still have open. And if you haven't filled up your bar yet, then now might be a good time to just throw some prayers on there. Like if you want to move your Soul Split over, and you want to move maybe your Torment, or anything equivalent to that on a normal spell book, or if you only have like the Deflect curses, you can use them too. And then also to move over, I have logs in my inventory right now because I'm working on fire making. But if you have your potions, your food, stuff like that, so you don't have to go over and click here, you can just kind of have your hand resting on your whatever keys you have assigned to it, and you can just use all of the stuff that you need. So it's really, after you have these abilities on there, these remaining 5 spots are really optional. So that's it for this video. It was just supposed to be a quick little tips and tricks type of thing, showing you guys what I believe is a good way to do things. And so if you did like it, please give it a like, and be sure to subscribe for more content. I have 2 series running right now, which is Bossing the Bibles, where I'm pretty much PvMing to try and get enough money to buy out my remaining skills for Maxcape. And then you also have a Road to Maxcape. And right now in that, I'm just going through the unbuyable skills like agility and thieving and other stuff like that. So thank you guys for watching, and have a good day.